6:01. Report of actions taken in closed session, none. Attendance roll call, President Rothberg Allen here. Clerk Reed.
Here.
Trustee Lopez Jones.
Here.
Trustee Rios.
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Here.
4.4 Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 4.5 District Mission Statement. We are a collaborative, culturally rich, educational community where a rigorous and innovative curriculum prepares our students to be successful contributors to our global society. 5. Public business from the floor, non-agenda items. Sorry. Good. This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the board on any item regarding board business that is not on the agenda. Without taking action or entering into a dialogue with the public, board members may briefly respond to statements or make clarifying questions about topics posed by the public. Ask clarifying questions. Your matter may be referred to administration. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Looks like none. 6, presentations. Local indicators to the dashboard. Dr. Pittman.
Good evening, everyone. In your board packet, you have the report for our local indicators for the dashboard. Just a reminder that this is required by the state for us to report on our local indicators at the same meeting as our LCAP is adopted. Some of the items that are listed in the local indicators are also metrics within our LCAP. And after presentation of the board, we post to the state website. We either met or not met is related to the review of the data and process to review. It's not necessarily meeting a standard or a threshold. So there are five priorities we need to report on. Priority 1 is a combination of appropriately assigned teachers, access to curriculum aligned to instructional materials, and safe, clean, and functional school facilities. All 3 of these are reported metrics within our LCAPs. For this school year, 23-24, we have 59 out of 60 teachers who hold a clear credential. 1 is considered ineffective. There's a definition for this, and I forgot to print it out. Director DeFrancesco, can you remind us of what the official definition of ineffective is? Yes, it's not what you think it is.
Nobody likes this term. They shouldn't use that term, but they do. So, I do have a definition. Refers to a teacher assignment that lacks proper authorization through a credential or permit. And it essentially is like provisional internship program permits, short-term staff permits, variable term waivers. So these are basically like emergency permits. That's what it is. So they should call it emergency permit.
So we have 1 teacher who falls into that category that is currently working on clearing their credential. Access to instructional materials, 100% of our students have access. And facility conditions, 100% of our schools are rated good or better. Priority 2 is implementation of state academic standards. We are either at the initial full implementation and sustainability for all subjects, as well as adoption of materials. For priority 3, which is parental involvement and family engagement, we send a survey out to our parents through the LCAP survey. Again, we are either the initial full implementation and sustainability for working with our families. Based on our LCAP data this year, our suggested improvements are for more parental interaction by offering additional opportunities for parent-guardian involvement at school with an increased focus on parent-teacher relationships. We are also looking for more ways to capture parent engagement because many of our parents are actively engaged, but they're engaged in non-traditional ways. Priority 6 is school climate. This data is collected 2 ways. One is surveying our students both on the LCAP survey as well as an SEL survey and the California Healthy Kids survey, and then we survey our parents on the LCAP survey. We continue to see a difference in responses from the parents and the students. The students respond one way, parents respond another. If you have children, that shouldn't be shocking. We do have a need to improve the school climate so that more students feel accepted and connected. And so we'll be implementing intentional activities to elevate student voice and to address concerns with students' treatment of each other, predominantly at the junior, senior high school versus the elementary school, but we do want it to be TK through 12th grade. And then priority 7 is access to a broad course of study. Every high school student has access to a broad course of study, except for when they have to make a choice between 2 singletons. That's when we only offer 1 course, and it happens to be, or 1 section, it happens to be at the same period. And that's one of the flaws of a small school district when you have multiple singletons. So we are reporting that we have met all of our local indicators. Any questions?
Thank you. 6.2, technology plan, Michael?
All right, good evening. We completed our technology plan this year. It's a plan that will span 2024 to 2027. And we were really starting from scratch. A technology plan didn't really exist. I think there was one maybe 10 years ago or so that Matt worked on. I think it was mostly a report for compliance purposes. But this is really a very authentic plan that's had a lot of consideration and should serve us well. And I'm going to walk through mostly some conversation around the process that we used to develop the plan. The full plan you have in your packet, and it's pretty dense. It's 20 pages, and it was really more about depth than breadth, actually. We spent a lot of time on each section, developing it, considering it, getting feedback, revising it. So it's pretty dense. And as I go through this, you should have this presentation in your packet, and that might be a better way to follow along. Sometimes this projector gets kind of light on the font, so I would recommend having it on your computer as well. So why do we need a technology plan? Number 1, to document our current practices. Important for several reasons. 1, for transparency, for our teachers, for our families, for external stakeholders, for prospective students. It's good to have a documented process of how you are doing anything, including educational technology. And also I think for organizational stability, should for some reason I'm not here, or Maureen's not here, or Larry's not here, how do we do business? How do we do these things? And I think this is a document someone can pick up, and it's specific and articulate to know how we do business. Also to create a framework for decision making. Thus far, we've got really smart people and experienced people, and we're able to make decisions. But this is really a better way to make decisions around these things, is to have a plan that describes your vision, your goals, and then when a question comes to the table and you figure out how do we have to answer this, you have that document that says, how does this fall within our plan? And it should really position us to make better decisions around technology moving forward. And then also to provide a roadmap and have some forward-thinking ideas around where we're going. It was developed by the Educational Technology Committee. These are the members, and these are the members over the last 2 years. We started this really in 2022-23, so you see some names like Beatrice, or Heather, or Jeremy, or Monica, who were members of the 2022-23 team, but we give them credit as well. They were part of the process. And this is a great team that I've really enjoyed working with over the last several years. It has classified representation, certificated management, staff from both school sites. It's got good representation in its makeup. A little bit about the timeline. So 2022-23, we had discussions around kind of some of those original issues on that first slide. We need a technology plan. It will make us better. We reviewed comparable plans throughout the state. We looked at a series of plans, tried to find ones that we like, that we can pattern after in terms of structure of the plan. And then we developed our initial goals at the end of the 22-23 year. I think we initially threw those out, we kind of started over, but we started the process in 22-23. And then this school year, we worked on the plan every single meeting. And we tried to kind of take one section and work on it at each meeting, send it out to the staff at the end of the meeting, and our takeaways are our staff feedback document, allow a chance for feedback. And we worked on it, I think, around 12 meetings. We worked on this plan. And this is a statement from early on in the plan. The intent of creating a technology plan was to create a living document that would guide and direct CGUSD towards its vision, document our approach to educational technology, and identify areas for growth, areas we need to revisit, and some that need to be adapted and or abandoned. I think that definitely captures our intent. So the structure of the plan is built around our LCAP goals. So LCAP goal number 1, there are 2 sections of the plan under that goal. The first is curriculum and instruction. The second is improving student achievement. So under curriculum and instruction, you have information around the digital elements within our curriculum, as well as other technology tools we use as part of our curriculum and our instruction. And under improving student achievement, you have some information around, a lot of information around assessment systems and the data that we use to change our teaching and adapt to the needs of our students. LCAP goal number 2, provide a safe and healthy and positive school environment. You get a section on infrastructure and access, which is mostly around our network infrastructure and our systems that we have in place, kind of the backbone of our technology system. Cybersecurity, data privacy and safety speaks for itself. And then classroom design, that section really describes like our standard classroom, the technologies that exist within a standard classroom. If you build a new classroom, this is what it would have in it. If a teacher comes to your school district and comes into a classroom, these are the technology tools that it's going to have. And then lastly, under LCAP goal number 3, parent engagement, talks about how we use technology to engage our parents, as well as how we promote technology education amongst our families. And then within each goal area, you have kind of this consistent structure. There's a current approach or a narrative section that says how we do business. And then there's a technology support, a data-driven decision-making, and emerging technology section. And I think on an early iteration of this plan, those bottom 3 bullets, they were standalone sections within the plan, but then we kind of came to the conclusion that those really apply to every single section. So under curriculum and instruction, that requires technology support, to figure out how we support teachers to access these tools. Data-driven decision-making, how we use data to decide which tools to use, which are effective, which are being used, and then emerging technologies, which curriculum tools are kind of on the forefront that we should be looking at. So you see those sections repeated within each goal area of the plan. So next steps, share this plan with all staff. They've kind of seen it in its development, but we need to next year share the whole plan out with them. We will definitely use it as a basis for our decision making and then ongoing plan refinement. It's certainly a living document. I can already think of things next year that we need to add, and we'll just continue to add to it through Ed Tech as things come up and we make decisions so that it's continually relevant. So that's my presentation. I'm excited to share it with you. I think it does make us better. I think having a technology plan certainly is part of. We do so much with technology in this district. It's great to document it, and then also to have a plan that we can use moving forward. So questions for me about the presentation, or if you've had a chance to review the plan, I can take any questions about the plan as well.
So my question is, you're talking about parent engagement, and as we know, not all the parents who have children in the district have the ability or the skills to be able to, to look up some of these activities, right? I mean, they get a text message, and sometimes you don't even know if they know how to read it, right? So is that something that is considered in the plan?
Absolutely, and we've had a lot of in-depth conversation about that. And I think what we tried to do in the plan is say there's a basic set of skills that our parents at this point really do need to have and that we need to support for their child to be able to access their education. So to enroll in school, you've got to be able to use ARIES, the enrollment portal. And to get onto ARIES portal, you have to have an email address. And that's kind of a basic, that you have to have an email address to register your child for school and to get parent square messages. And then we have some level of obligation to support our parents, which is when we do the back to school open sessions where families can come in and can get support to create an email address to get those registrations done. Then we kind of differentiated it from there to say there are a lot of other things that are more advanced that parents can have access to, but those are kind of above and beyond. We might not support those. And there are a lot of things it calls out that there is a distinction too between the things that the school district will support and won't support, but that basic level is where we really need to focus on those parents that do have those issues where they might not have an email account, where they might not have the technology proficiency to do some of those basic things. So that's our intent.
So that got me thinking, is there a way that we can, I don't know, partner with other organizations, say the, Napa Valley Adult School, to provide those types of, skills to the parents? I know in the past they had a class or two.
We still do. So we still partner with them, and he holds class here at the junior, senior high school. And then also with the addition of our parent community liaison, she provides support for them as well. So anytime that a family needs that support, there is somebody here within the district, whether it's us as a staff member or partnering with Napa Valley Adult Ed, that can provide them the support to either sit side by side with them or to teach them the skills they need to move forward.
And I think that's accurate, from site secretaries to community liaison to the classes through Napa Adult Ed. What we try to do in terms of the plan, which is worth pointing out for this section and all the sections, is try to keep it a little bit agnostic. We've called out some of those groups in the plan, but also left it a little bit open-ended to say community partners, as if we could find it, because that's the goal, is to partner within the community to say that we might not be able to do all these things ourselves, but not necessarily call out every group, because next year that could change. We might find another community partner. But we certainly recognize this issue, and we've talked about this a lot over the years, and I think we've actually taken a pretty slow, actually a very slow approach to rolling out and having technologies be mandatory. For years and years, we kept that paper registration process in place. But there is a time where we do need to start to lean into the technology, because it's really necessary for parents to have the data and the information they need. And so I think that's where we need to go, and then we need to make sure that we're actively supporting all parents who need support.
Thank you.
And was that pretty accurate? That was very involved in this one.
Anyone else have questions? Thank you so much for putting that together. It's important. Okay, 7, Director of Facilities Maintenance and Operations.
Hello, everyone. So we made it through last week's promotions and graduations and hit the ground running this morning. They were all really good. I thought they turned out well. At the elementary school for the modernization, as soon as the contractors arrived, they started removing the roof shingles. Carpets movers came and moved out. I think they have about 5 classrooms left. We'll be back tomorrow to move those out. There's been a lot of back and forth with the Department of Fish and Game this morning with just all of the different revisions they want to do, non-native species, native species, a percentage of coverage and stuff like that. So we're expecting to get our final approval on Friday, hopefully. But I think we'll probably be mobilizing the contractor later on in the week to get things moving. And then for the STEM building, we've got a couple of DSA sections approved, but I think we're just waiting on structural. I believe fire, life, and safety is already signed off, as well as access. So I don't have a date on that yet. Hopefully soon. Do you hear anything about structural? Yeah. I think probably another day or two.
I ask
Every day.
every day until we check.
Is there instruction? Yes.
But the landmark trailers are in place, ready to roll, so good to go as soon as it happens.
100%.
Does anybody have any questions on that? There's some other stuff in the agenda later on. I'll have a little more information for you. All right.
Thank you. Director of Business Services.
Evening. I don't have a lot tonight. I just wanted to give you an update on the state budget adoption. On Thursday, June 13th, the Assembly and the Senate approved the 24-25 state budget. The state budget is in the form of Assembly Bill 107. The plan represents the legislature's approach to the upcoming fiscal year and fulfills the legislature's constitutional obligation to get the budget in by June 15th. So a lot of times this is kind of a placeholder budget. Once this budget goes to the governor then has 12 days to respond or sign. And so after the governor does that, we'll see another junior bill. That will be the actual state budget adoption. From then, we will have 45 days to update the board if there are significant changes to our district budget because of what the state has adopted. So more to come on that. It's possible we might see might have to have a board meeting in the beginning of August. Hopefully there's not going to be substantive changes to where we will. Most of the changes that will happen are probably going to be for LCFF districts, ADA run districts rather than basic aid districts. So hopefully we won't have to see you at the beginning of August. We'll be able to see you at a regularly scheduled board meeting later on in the month. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Questions? All right, Director of Educational Services and Human Resources.
I'm back up here. Okay, so I want to share some information on homework. And this is a topic that came up for the board last year. So we looked into that this year. We did a staff survey with our certificated staff. And it was done through Thought Exchange. I think you might be familiar with Thought Exchange. And we can do kind of traditional questions, multiple choice or Likert scale questions, but then it also offers an opportunity for staff to answer open-ended question, rate each other's comments, and it gives you some really good, rich feedback. And so I'm going to share some of it with you tonight. It's a very lengthy survey that can be kind of sliced and diced, or the data can be looked at in lots of different ways. But today we're just going to give you some of this to kind of open the discussion with you. And this is definitely one you're going to, I think, want to have on your computer. I might even walk around with it because the text gets really small. So it had 60 participants. It's pretty much all of our certificated staff. 51 thoughts, 871 ratings, 17 ratings per thought. So that's a pretty high level of engagement. And I just jumped to question 3. And I'm just going to read these through to you, just to kind of, again, open this discussion together. So how often do you assign homework to your students? 61% of respondents said 2 to 4 days per week or daily. Now, if you were to run this data by grade level, which we can do, you'd see it's a pretty logical progression. TK doesn't give any homework, and it kind of gets more and more amount of time as you get into high school. Is homework mandatory or optional? By and large, it's mandatory. Is homework graded on quality or participation? Majority is participation or completeness, but almost that same amount if you combine quality with mixed quality and participation. On average, how much time do you expect students to spend on their homework? And you get the majority at about 11 to 30 minutes a night, with some on each end of that, more or less. And again, there's a logical progression if you run this based on grade level, where the least is at first grade and the most is at the high school level. What percentage of students' final grade is determined by homework? And for most, it's not. And this is something we might have to dig into, because for most staff, it's mandatory, but it's not having a big impact on the grade. So that's something we might probe into to try to understand a little more about that. What percentage of students typically complete their homework assignments? 66% said that it was above 80%, or they don't give homework. So that's positive. By and large, students are doing their homework. Homework is an important and essential part of my class. 56% agreed or strongly agreed. Homework teaches essential skills like organization, follow-through, and self-sufficiency. 80% agree or strongly agree. Homework leads to inequalities due to different levels of support, access, and learning environments in the home. 43% agreed or strongly agreed with that. Homework increases student and family stress and inhibits family bonding time outside of school. 26% agreed or strongly agreed with that statement. In general, I believe that our school should provide blank more homework than we currently do, and it's pretty mixed. Most said about the same, and you have some that say a little bit more, some that say a little bit less. We need to have a clear homework policy for our school rather than individual classroom policies, and again, you kind of see that mix. A lot of people in the middle either agree or disagree, and some people on either side. And there's a lot more comments, questions than that, but that gives you an introduction to some of the feedback that we have. And again, we have the ability to see that by grade level or subject area. So there are a lot of comments. Like I said, I'm just going to show you the top rated ones and the bottom rated ones. And what I mean by rated is if someone made a comment and everyone liked the comment, or most people liked the comment, that would be a high rated comment. And then there's going to be some comments, I'm sure the lowest rated comments, where someone said something and a lot of ones and twos where people did not respond positively. So just give us a sense. So here are some high-rated comments. Reading needs to happen at home. It needs to be assigned, and parents and teachers need to understand how essential reading is. It should it should be practiced at home every night. The highest rated comment. Homework depends on the grade level of the subject. Upper level math classes need opportunities for independent practice. And there were several comments like this, just staff wanting to point out that this is a complex issue. And the answers are going to be different depending on the grade level, the subject. If someone teaches an elective class and a core class, they might have different answers for different classes. Homework is important for continuing practice of skills learned in class. Lifelong learners, not just during school hours. This is real life, and it helps teach responsibility. And your lowest rated comments, they're not unrated because somebody had this thought, right? Somebody said it. So it's not, someone believes it's true, but then it got a negative response. We should cut down on the amount of homework. Studies show that homework doesn't make significant differences in learning, and it puts undue stress on students. Reading for fun is more effective. There's research that shows that homework has no benefit at the elementary level. From personal experience, I do not see homework impacting my class's performance over another. Why add stress on the child at home? As a teacher, I can take responsibility for the learning that happens during school hours. The student, teacher, and family time and effort spent on homework is not proportional to the net positive outcomes. Time spent on homework in class, prepping, grading, correcting at home, could better be spent on other learning opportunities. So that gives you, a sense, right? And then we saw this year. This is pending legislation, Assembly Bill 299, the Healthy Homework Act. It would require school districts, starting in 2027-28, to develop and implement a homework policy for all grades and update that policy every 5 years. And this would need, I think this would need board approval. The intent is to mitigate the stress and health issues associated with excessive homework while ensuring students have ample time for other important activities. So, this will be our charge, is to develop a meaningful policy that will guide the district's work. And I can just see what I see from the survey is we do have really differing opinions on this topic. We have some folks that really believe that homework is essential. It does a lot of important things for students, and are pretty averse to those ideas that we need to look at reducing homework. And then you have some people who are on the other side of the spectrum. And so I think that will make our work more challenging in how we have the discussions and how we educate staff, regardless of the direction we go, because we have really diverse opinions. And so we're going to have to figure out how to have that meaningful conversation and get us to a place where we can have a policy, and ideally a policy that's meaningful, not just a policy that kind of covers the basis, but that really guides us in the direction that we think is the right way to go. So that's my presentation tonight. Any questions for me? I might not have all the answers other than we're starting this conversation.
So is the thought to start with this and then eventually develop a policy for the district on homework?
It is.
I mean, as a parent, I think it would be interesting to see what other parents feel like, because I can only speak at my own home, but homework is a huge stressor, particularly with working parents, and even on 3rd grade math, I personally struggle. So, you know, it's just like it feels like a big part of our evening is fighting over homework, and I hate that. And I'm sure I'm not the only family in that position.
So to your point, I think it would make sense, and we've talked about this as a next part of this process, is to get input from other stakeholders, including parents. I think one thing we'll have to think about, and we always think about with the LCAP survey, is how we get as many parents and a diverse group of parents in this community as possible to give us feedback, and not just from a certain segment of our parent population. We have to figure out what are those opportunities for us to get feedback. And then I think we should also get feedback from students, but it has to be really strategic, right? But their voice is important. They'll have the right students will have the right things to say, not just we don't want homework. They'll have insightful things to say. I think if we can get to the right group of students and ask the questions the right way, I do think that that's a group of stakeholders we need to hear from.
I'll just add, though, that I think you're right. It's a really nuanced conversation, and I don't need to color it as, well, it's hard for me, so I don't want to do it.
No, and I can appreciate the legislation, because it's not only is it nuanced, it's a really personal topic. It's personal for parents. I think it's personal for teachers. It's a hard conversation to have, and I think the legislature it's going to force us to have this conversation. And that's okay. We should be having this conversation, but we are going to. It's not something that's going to happen quickly, or it's not going to be a simple process. It's going to take some pretty deep consideration.
Some students have to go to like the library. They don't have like real good internet at their house, and they go to the library to do their homework. And a lot of times, I know for a fact that there's some word problems that are all in English. Our students are 80% Hispanic, and the parents can't understand. They can't help when it's all in English, and they don't have a proper. They can't get help, and that's just more frustrating. That gets really frustrating. On my side, we don't understand. It's really mad.
All I can say is I completely agree with that sentiment. And I think those are the type of issues that we need to look at, and that's the type of feedback that we need to make sure that we understand when we go to our parents and ask how are things going. Internet access, language translation, those types of things. What are the barriers to homework?
Thank you for putting this together. It's really interesting to see it from the teacher's perspective, because I know from one point it's the kids who have to do the homework, but it's the teachers who have to go over the homework to ensure that it was, done properly and understood. It's interesting, question 7, talking about how much time do you expect students to spend on homework each night. That 67%, looking at the junior, senior high school, they have 7 classes, albeit PE probably doesn't give out a ton of homework. If you say 5 to 6 classes a night, that could be anywhere from 1 hour to 4+ hours a night. And I know that obviously fluctuates, but it's just interesting to see it broken down, by these minutes, because we're sitting here saying that these kids should be well-rounded individuals and we should have extracurriculars, and a lot of our student body work, and not work part-time jobs, but work a full-time job and a part-time job, or do all of this. And so while I completely agree with the teachers on, it teaches them responsibility and it teaches them importance, I think that we do owe it to the kids to know that this might be an importance of equity and not equality. That just because there are some students who benefit from homework and learn through homework, there are some students who don't have the home support or do have to go to work directly after school, don't get off until midnight, and then are expected to do anywhere from 1 to 3 hours of homework a night. I think it's a challenging situation that a lot of our students find themselves in. And I also think, going back to Stephanie's point of on question 18, where it says Homework increases student and family stress and inhibits family bonding time outside of school. That I feel like is more geared towards the younger grades per se. And I disagree with them disagreeing because it's a challenge, not in the sense of the amount that they have to do, but I think trying to teach that at a young age, and we're getting there, but I think that sometimes it's a lot to be expected of an 8-year-old to do what they're being asked to do, especially after being in class for so long. And so one thing that I thought of is that, the Boys and Girls Club has the Learning Center, so they have an area to do the homework, but a lot of times it's only open for grades 4 through 6. So the kids who are younger who have homework, it's not open for them to use at all times. So I don't know if that's, that's obviously probably part of a bigger question, but if we could work with Boys and Girls Clubs, since such a large percentage of our younger kids go there after school, to help them kind of expand that offering to help relieve some of the stress after the kids get picked up at 6 o'clock and the parents are trying to make dinner, and then the 8-year-old comes like, I have 10 pages of homework that I have to do for tomorrow. So if there was a way that we could help through that, I think would be interesting to find out. But thank you for putting this together, and I do agree, learning from other, parents and community members would be beneficial.
Yeah, and I'll just a few follow-up comments. So I didn't include it in these slides, but one question we asked, and we tried to understand, had to do with the collaboration between staff on this issue of when a student has multiple classes. Are we talking to one another about what night are you assigning that project? And that's a hard thing to suss out. I've worked in a lot of schools and seen that issue come up where I think that's something that all schools can do better. And I think something that we can do better is making sure that we are promoting that conversation amongst staff, and not just having, say, a grade level or a department meeting, but when we're in grade level and we're meeting with other teachers from our grade level, are we talking about what big projects do you have coming up, so that we're not 3 teachers putting a big project on students at the same exact time. And the other issue, just you mentioned it a little bit, the different needs of different students. And I think that's what makes this one of the things that makes this a nuanced conversation is, some schools, especially elementary schools, have gone the way of no homework. Right? My child's school is no homework, right? But I think the other side of that is you also don't want to limit the opportunity for students to learn. You have some students that really might benefit from extra learning at home. And so how do you do that where you account for the students that might not be able to do it for whatever reason, and those that can, and those that might benefit versus those who won't? I think that's what will make coming up with a policy challenging, is something that meets everyone's needs.
What about the students that are athletes, like they go to practice every day, they practice and they travel times. Some kids travel like 4 hours to get to some games, and they don't want to, and they should do it on the bus, but they don't, they fall asleep.
Yeah, my wife went to school in Mendocino County, so she took 128 all the time, and she was an athlete. She used to talk about how she used to get car sick trying to do her homework. But we will, I think we'll definitely engage parents, and you'll get the survey too. I think it's important that parents be honest, and because you're going to have thoughts and opinions that are going to be different than maybe staff members, and it's a different perspective that we all need to hear, and put all that feedback together and find out where are we really at, and where do we need to go. But I think I'm happy that we're having the conversation, because this is a conversation we really have not had earnestly.
I had one other question. At the various levels, and I don't know if this was addressed in the survey, but what are we trying to accomplish with homework at first grade versus 6th grade versus, and it seems like different things. And are we truly, with the homework assignments that we give, are they tailored to meet whatever goal it is? Is it, well, after school you have to do extra work to be successful? Or is it, well, in 9th grade you need to make time to go to the library to do research on your own to put together this paper? And that's what I would like to know, because at least as to my child, again, anecdotal, I'm sometimes unsure of what the purpose is behind the worksheets or, I mean, obviously reading, I understand that, but some of the other things I just don't understand.
Yeah, we did ask that question, and so we had a list of things of what's the purpose. Because I think the top answer was really to continue learning, like a continuation of what students are learning in school as opposed to learning new content. But I think the reality is that the answers are all across the board because there's no policy or vision. And so we're all just kind of doing what we think is right, and so you're getting a variety of practices from classroom to classroom. Thank you.
Thank you.
So before you go,
This is a hot topic.
I'm not sure if we talk about what are the next steps of this process. Is it talking to parents,
Yes.
students, so?
I think it's developing a parent survey and then getting it to parents in multiple venues. And then I still think we should go to students. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I do think we got to get them to it in some way. If they all just tell us no homework, okay. But let's at least ask.
I think it would be hysterical.
And then we'll look at that. I imagine that part of this is going to be these staff conversations as well. When we have all the data, we need to then say, let's look at this together. Ultimately, the goal is a policy. It looks like the legislation is, the policy is 2027-28. I certainly hope we wouldn't wait that long. But I do think this will take a good chunk of next year for us to feel like we really have a good foundation to be able to put some things in writing.
Seven 7.4, Superintendent.
Good evening. So the first thing that I wanted to update you on was our work as an administrative team, which is myself, the directors, site administrators, as well as the district office staff around positive intelligence. And today we spent an hour talking about healthy conflict. And this is a perfect topic that is related to healthy conflict. There are going to be different ideas and different needs and different aspirations, and so it's how do we collectively come together to figure out how to meet the needs and aspirations of all of those involved. It doesn't have to be one or the other, it can be an and so this is an opportunity for us to think outside of the box and come up with alternative solutions that will meet the needs and aspirations of everybody involved within this particular topic. And so I just think it's apropos that this is the first bucket that we are focusing on, and this is really a meaty topic that fits right into that healthy conflict. Update on LMIT, obviously we made it to Boston and we made it back. Hopefully you were able to see the videos of our two teams presenting. I recognize that I am biased, but I think they were the best teams up there, I'm just going to say. We are officially patent pending, so that's pretty exciting, yes. With that said, we had to ship the devices back, and Heather already received a phone call on Thursday night from ABC because ABC didn't want to do the story until they could actually see the device. And because we hadn't been patent pending and we hadn't presented yet, she couldn't show it to them because they weren't going to sign an NDA. So they called her Thursday night and said, okay, you're done, let us see it. And so she's going to be setting up an interview with ABC to follow up with the work that our students did. We're also going to debrief with Heather as well as the larger team, think about what our plans are moving forward, what did we learn, how can we make this better as we move forward. Today is the first day of our intensive summer Spanish course. We had 5 people, but it's a basic Spanish course, so one person decided that they were more than well equipped. They are coming back. But there are 4 staff members, along with 15 other people from the community. It is occupational. She's centering it hopefully on us as educators. How do we have parent-teacher conferences? How do we communicate in Spanish? So it's 3 hours during the day, and then there's after-hours work that we need to do, and dialogue with homework, and dialogue with each other, yes. So there's 4 staff members, as well as 1 parent/CEF member who is also joining the class, which is pretty exciting. Next week, we are going to the California Labor Management Initiative. We went to that for the first time last year, and this year we're extending it. We have 3 new teachers that are joining us. 2 CSEA members, and then myself, Michael, and Maureen will also be going. Tomorrow is the first official game of our Calistoga Joint Unified Summer Softball Team. So if you don't have any plans, at 6 p.m., go out to Logview Field, cheer us on. We do not have a meeting in July, just a reminder. Our next meeting is scheduled for August 5th, depending upon how the budget is. A few meetings ago, we had a conversation, I think it was actually started at the second interim. We were talking about enrollment and how we've been going through declining enrollment. So Cynthia's been working on pulling all of our numbers, both from district of choice to our neighboring school districts, as well as what our numbers have been over the last 10 years. And I would like us to think about holding a board study session related to our enrollment numbers over the last 10 years, trends that we see, and then think about goals moving forward. But I think it would be better suited in a study session so that that's the only topic. And so my question is if we don't need August 5th, since it's already calendared, we could use that as a date. And if that doesn't work, because we do have to do the budget, then I'll put out some other dates for us to circle back so that we can just have a conversation about what the trends have been over the last 10 years and what we can do if the board's goal is for us to increase our enrollment. That's all I have.
Any comments or questions? All right, we're on to the 8.1 consent agenda protocol. Actions proposed for the consent agenda are deemed routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless any member of the board, the audience, or staff requests specific items be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Second. All in favor? Aye. This is a roll call vote. President Rothberg Allen, aye. Clerk Reed? Aye. Trustee Lopez Jones? Trustee Gonzalez? Trustee Rios? 9.1, action item protocol. The protocol for action items include staff presentation, questions from the board, public input, deliberation by the board, and voting by the board. During public input, there will be a 3-minute time limit per person. 9.2, adoption of the 2024-25 budget.
No changes since I presented to the board 2 weeks ago, so we will meet our financial obligations for this year and the next 2 years. Staff recommends approval of the original budget, 24-25.
Can I have a motion? Second? Thanks, Matt. All in favor? Aye. This is a roll call vote. President Rothberg Allen, aye. Clerk Reed? Aye. Trustee Lopez Jones? Aye. Trustee Rios? Aye. Trustee Gonzalez? 24-25 Local Control Accountability Plan LCFF Budget Overview for Parents and supplement to the annual update to the 23-24 Local Control Accountability Plan.
So there has been no substantive changes, but there were 3 minor changes to the LCAP. We reordered the metrics so that they are in a better way to actually look at the data. We added a new metric of using our LEAPS survey so that we are holding ourselves accountable with our work with Transcend, so that was added to Goal 2. And then we added our work with Transcend to Goal 2 in the language of action 2.2. And those are the minor changes that have been. So we're asking the board to approve the plan as written.
Can I have a motion? Second? All in favor? Aye. Roll call vote. President Rothberg Allen, aye. Clerk Reed? Aye. Trustee Lopez Jones? Trustee Rios? Trustee Gonzalez? 23-24 Consolidated Application.
This is part 1 of a 2-part series of the CONAP for 24-25, and we do receive all of our federal funding through CONAP, so in order for us to get federal funding, we have to apply through the Consolidated App in CDE. Next year, we are scheduled to get $176,468 in all 4 of our title programs. And so, again, this is part 1 of a 2-part series.
Can't wait for the second part. part. Can I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Resolution 9.5, Resolution 23-2414 regarding the Education Protection Account.
This was a requirement of Prop 30 that passed way back in June, or in 2012. And the Education Protection Act, we get some money from the state, equivalent to about $200 per student. And we have to make sure that we are spending those dollars on non-administrative activities. So this resolution is stating that we are spending it all on instruction or instructional support, and we are receiving a total of $159,436.
Can I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. Authorization to sign on behalf of the Board of Trustees.
This is an authorization so that the superintendent and the director of business services can sign contracts prior to coming to the board if necessary.
Can I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. 9.7, Resolution 23-2416, Standards for Local Certification of Universal Transitional Kindergarten Teachers.
So when the state authorized universal transitional kindergarten, they imposed some additional credential requirements on those teachers teaching TK. And those included having 24 units of early childhood education credit, valid child development teacher permit or early childhood education specialist credential. And then it also authorized districts to create their own criterion, which would be equivalent to 24 units of education. So what this authorization does is it defines for us our local conditions for credentialing for TK teachers as one full academic year served in a preschool, full-time transitional kindergarten, or combined kindergarten transitional kindergarten class. So essentially, if you've taught 1 year of TK, you then meet the requirement to teach transitional kindergarten students in the future.
Can I have? Okay, you're on it. Okay, second. All in favor? Aye. 9.8, AB 1200, disclosure for the 24-25 California School Employee Association.
Okay, we have come to an agreement with CSEA, our classified union, and this is the disclosure to that agreement for 24-25. We have agreed to a 3.87% increase in salary for total compensation for CSEA. And if you look at the form provided in your packet, the total cost for that is $120,628. The other things included in this are what the estimated cost of step and column are for an actual increase percentage for next year of 4.58 to include step and column. And no health and welfare increases because CSEA decided to take all of the increase this year onto the salary schedule.
Can I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. 9.9, 24-25 classified salary schedules.
These are the updated salary schedules as a result of the 3.87% increase for 24-25.
Can I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. 9.10, revised memorandum of understanding with the California School Employees Association regarding proctoring exams.
So this memorializes our conditions for CSA members proctoring tests or exams. I'm going to go through it. It says that union members shall receive no less than $36 an hour during all hours spent assisting with proctoring tests outside the regular hours. And this is the proctoring rate that we brought to the last meeting. The work of proctoring exams is not exclusively a right of CSA members, meaning lots of types of staff could do this work. The district shall provide necessary training. All members shall be provided the opportunity to decline proctoring the LPAC test. The unit members shall not proctor but can assist with the CASP test. And I would say this is not really a change in practice, it just memorializes our current practice for the most part, with the exception of the new $36 rate.
Can I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. 9.11 Memorandum of Understanding with California School Employees Association regarding the forced move from workspace.
Yeah, and so this is, this details the compensation for classified staff who are compelled to move from their workspace, and it really is similar to the agreement we have with CAT. The dollar amount is lower. Our CSA members have a smaller workspace. They don't have the whole classroom, but they do have spaces that are packed up and moved in a similar fashion. And so this is a matter of equity between the associations that we bring this agreement forward.
Can I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. 9.12 Agreement with Circle Up Education.
So we've been working with Circle Up for a couple of years now, and this is a continuation of that relationship. In terms of this agreement, there's one thing that we're really committing to here, which is the beginning of the year training for new staff and possibly some returning staff having a refresher training on restorative practices. This is something we've done for a long time as part of our program to make sure that all new staff to CES in particular are trained in restorative practices. Also in this agreement is the potential to have Circle Up facilitate a third-party circle should we have a situation that we cannot facilitate ourselves, and we could have them come in and help facilitate that circle if it needed to happen. We've had that in the agreements in the past and have not utilized it, but it's important that it's there should we find ourselves in that circumstance.
Can I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. Memorandum of Understanding with Napa County Library.
This is a new memorandum of understanding that I'm excited to bring to the board. What this does is it allows us to partner with the Napa County Library, which is our Calistoga Library, and using our student IDs as the method for them getting library cards. So in the fall, all of our students who have a student ID, which would be all of our students, would automatically get a library card without having to go through the extra processes with their families. There would be an opt-out if a parent says, I don't want them to have a library card, they would opt out during the registration. But it just makes it much easier, and then all of our students will have access to the public library and be able to pull resources. We do field trips there. It gives them an opportunity after school and on the weekends to access it, and they don't have to think about actually applying for a library card. So I'm pretty excited about this partnership.
All in favor? Aye. 9.14 Agreement with Transcend.
So this is our work continuing with Transcend. Over this past year, we had qualified for a grant through them, and they had worked through all of the costs and provided the resources for us. We obviously did not finish the work that we are doing with them, and so we're trying to partner with them through a phased approach to where eventually they won't be supporting us, but we're not quite there yet. So what this contract does is it allows us to partner with them to continue the work that we're doing. It comes out to almost $100,000, but they are finding funders to backfill and will only be charging us $25,000. What is important to remember is that this now allows us an opportunity to put, in essence, skin in the game. And so we are contributing so that this will be a deeper partnership and to work with Transcend to build our capacity as we move forward. So I'm asking the board to approve the MOU.
Can I have a motion? Second. No, not voting. All in favor? Aye. 9.15 Workplace Violence Prevention Policy.
Thought Michael was going to speak about this. How about we tag team it? Okay. So starting in the 24-25 school year, the state is requiring all school districts to have a workplace violence prevention policy. And so we partnered with our attorneys who had a template to understand the law and to know what elements we needed to include in this. We sent out a survey to our staff to get feedback from them as we think about a variety of what workplace violence would look like and how do we actually prevent it from happening. The safety committee reviewed it and will continue to review it. So it needs to go into place by July 1, just like with anything else that we present to you when it comes to a plan. It also needs to be attached to our
Injury and illness prevention plan.
and so we're gonna hopefully adopt it tonight. We aren't required to have you approve it, but we feel like this is the way we do things in Calistoga. We want to set it up, have it board adopted. And then as we get more feedback and we work through it, there might be modifications. We might find that we want to make changes based on how we do things in Calistoga. So this is our first draft that will go into place on July 1st. Michael, did I miss anything?
I can just add, I think this can be a little bit of a learning process for everyone, for all schools. This is the result of new legislation that affects all workplaces. So it's not an education law. It's going to look different depending on the environment. The risks in a school are going to be different than the risks, say, if you work in a restaurant or somewhere else. So I think this will be. I know for HR folks that are doing a lot of this, we'll be talking a lot about this in the fall. How's this rolling out in your district? And so we're going to. I think it'll be a work in progress. At the beginning of next year, to where we feel comfortable about the plan and how it's working.
A collective bargaining representative that can ask for a second temporary restraining order. So thinking about our district and how small we are and thinking about, well, we have only 2 schools and there's only so much you can do in terms of placing people away from each other. So have there been any thoughts about how to approach that situation?
Yeah, well, this is one of the most unusual things in the law. And the thing that folks are going to be really paying attention to, how does this work? So the scenario would be, say, a teacher was threatened or something happened, and the teacher didn't really want to act, or didn't want to act, but the association president has the right under this law to file a restraining order on behalf of that teacher. The teacher has to be given the right to not be named, but even that, people don't really understand what's going to happen because those restraining orders are with the courts. So what will the court even do if they don't understand who? We're wondering, they can potentially issue an immediate temporary restraining order, but typically for a restraining order, that person would have to be called. So there's a lot, this is one of those things where there are things in this that have been passed by legislatures, by the legislature that people are saying, well, how is this really going to work? And so I think that's the part where we're going to have to be talking to neighboring districts when they have their first instance. Say, how did that go in your district? What were the challenges? What were the successes? I think we all want a safe workplace. I think this is formalizing the plan to make sure that happens. But in terms of the actual implementation, there's going to be some unanswered questions like that exact issue that we're going to have to keep an eye on and say, what does that look like?
So do we have anything in place at this time?
If we ever encounter a situation like that?
Yeah, we have our typical processes, which would be, we could potentially call law enforcement. Someone can issue their own restraining order by themselves. That this extended that right to the bargaining unit to be able to do that. That's the unique part of this. I think we have probably actually a lot of these processes in place. What this does that's unique is it really makes it much more formal. There are some required forms that we need to use when we investigate. There's a required log we need to keep if there's an incident. It falls within the Injury and Illness Prevention Plan, meaning it falls under the guise of OSHA. OSHA is the governing body. So a lot of this is just, to your point, yes, we do a lot of this already. It's making it very formal.
Can I have a motion? A second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
9.16, agreement with Landmark Recalistoga Step Building GM.
This is an update. It's an update to our agreement with an actual dollar amount, guaranteed maximum price, but ISBAN felt to come out and kind of explain it a little better because they have a better understanding than I do.
Thank you. I'm Kelly Jurgensen with Vanpel Construction Services, and we assist the district with the management of the bond and construction program. So what we're taking tonight is a revised guaranteed maximum price. So the board did see a GMP quite a while ago, but that was before the design was completely finished. And during the process, we identified several needs that the facilities had that weren't originally identified as part of the selection process that got you the design build team that has been working on the project. It's a pretty standard thing to get through that design process and see that there are items like, I think one of them is gas turrets, water, and things that you want that you may not identify as a middle school need, but something that can actually become valuable once you're working with the design team and understanding the project a little bit better. So this cost represents now an update to the original GMP that was taken to board some time ago and represents what we'll actually be working towards in the design moving forward as soon as we cross that last hurdle with DSA. So we want to make sure that our team is completely ready to go with that final cost, and we can break ground as soon as we get that DSA approval. Any questions from the board?
So when you say final cost, there will be no coming back and asking for more after this, correct?
Well, within that GMP is also a contingency amount to address unforeseen conditions. So in construction, nothing's ever final. We always end up finding conflicts, finding things that go wrong. So we do build a contingency within the budget with the contractor so that we can address some of those things without coming back to the board again and again and asking for more funds. So it would have to be pretty significant, but I never say never because in the construction process, you just never know what goes on. But we've planned pretty well over the last several months and have that contingency there to address the needs.
So I'm going to put this out there. Our goal is for them to come in under this number.
Well, yeah, that's everything.
That's what our goal is.
Just
So we've
because
said-
this is just a 20%.
We set a cushion. So there's a cushion in there to allow for unforeseen items that we won't know until we start building.
Can I have a motion? Second,
Second.
Indira. All in favor? Aye. Agreement with Hanford Arc.
This is the engineering company that's going to be doing the work on the riverbank, the restoration. They are the company that did our original emergency repairs as well as the follow-up repairs that took place in 2019. So they're familiar with the project, they're familiar with working with the Department of Fish and Game as well as the SAR design company.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Closing items, 10.1. I have one. I've heard not rumors necessarily, but a number of people at different times have brought up a bullying issue at the school, and I was wondering if we could get a report on that.
Bullying issue at one school, both schools?
I think both schools.
Both schools, okay. Yeah, we can absolutely come at the beginning of the year and have both principals talk about how they address bullying at each of their individual sites. As I shared in our local dashboard, that is one of the things that we want to focus on at the beginning of the year is how do students interact with each other, and how do we hold students accountable. But yes, we can have both principals come and present what the school policies are, what the school rules are, how do we actually support and show how we want students to be, how we want students to behave, and how we want students to treat each other. And then if they're not treating each other in that manner, what actually happens? Yes.
Perfect, thanks. Anybody else?
Going to be my question as well. And again, speaking for both schools, because I've had parents and or kids come and talk to me about incidents of bullying, and just kind of having an understanding of repercussions. I know it varies from, thanks Chris. I know it varies from case to case and student to student, but just to kind of see, because we can, tout that we have a zero tolerance policy for bullying, but is it really being implemented? How is it being implemented? And how are we holding each other accountable to make sure that our kids are comfortable going to school and happy going to school and feel safe going to school? So I think that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, we also have, some data we can share. We have some data on school climate and bullying in particular, so we can share some data along with our discipline policies and also here for our administrators.
I know also that we already have restorative practices in place, and obviously we're going to get more education for the staff. But if there is there a program out there that has been implemented specifically in that subject, right? Sometimes a restorative practice will work if two people are willing to do it, right? Participate in a circle or whatever it is, or a conversation, but it doesn't always happen. So my question to you would be, is there a particular curriculum or a program that we can start researching in terms of implementing it at the school district level in the schools?
Anyone else? All right, 10.2, board meeting calendar, August 5th, August 19th, and September 9th. Tentative future agenda items, the summer program report, and unaudited actuals. No need to reconvene to closed session. Thank you, Laurel. Thank you, Indira. All in favor? Aye. Thanks, everyone. Have a good summer.
Woo!